You're looking at a human skull. It's roughly 20,000 years old. The person it belonged to never met a dentist, never owned a toothbrush, never wore a retainer, never spent 2 years avoiding popcorn because a piece might get trapped inside several $1,000s of metal attached to his face, and yet his teeth fit, all the way to the back. Even the wisdom teeth have room. Then you look at a modern mouth. Teeth growing sideways, canines trapped above the gum, lower incisors arranged like people trying to leave a concert through one tiny door. And somewhere between that ancient skull and your orthodontist's waiting room, something clearly went wrong. This is the story of why cavemen almost never needed braces, not because their teeth were magically perfect, not because evolution personally cared about their smile, and definitely not because they had discovered some prehistoric version of Invisalign made from transparent animal intestine. Their teeth were generally straighter because their mouths had something many modern mouths do not: space. And the reason they had that space might begin with something so ordinary that you did it several times today without thinking about it: chewing. Because your jaw does not arrive at birth in its final form. It grows in response to genes, hormones, muscle forces, and how it is used while you are young. Bone is living tissue. Put it under repeated stress, and it responds. An ancient child did not begin life with yogurt in a plastic tube. After breastfeeding and weaning, that child eventually ate food that required work: tough pieces of meat, fibrous roots, seeds, nuts, plants that had not been blended, purified, puffed, softened, sweetened, and shaped into a small dinosaur. The food was cut with stone, crushed between rocks, roasted over fire, or chewed until the jaw began questioning every decision that had led to this meal. Day after day, those chewing muscles pulled against the developing face. The jaws grew broad and robust enough to hold the teeth arriving inside them. That is the basic idea. Food became more controllable. It also became softer. Grain could be ground into flour. Flour could become porridge or bread. Milk could be processed. Meat from domesticated animals could be cooked in pots for long periods. Mortars, grinding stones, and eventually mills began doing work that human teeth and jaws once had to perform themselves. Human beings had invented outsourcing for chewing. That was excellent news for calories. It was more complicated news for faces. When a child grows up eating food that demands less force, the muscles do less work, and the developing jaws receive a different mechanical environment. The jaw does not simply shrink like wet clothing. Its growth pattern changes, and the teeth are still coming. The teeth did not shrink at the same speed. They could not receive a notification saying the kitchen had invented porridge and everyone needed to become smaller. So now there was a space problem. The furniture is almost the same size. The room is smaller. The front teeth rotate. The canines become blocked. The upper and lower jaws stop meeting cleanly. Wisdom teeth reach the back of the mouth, find no available property, and begin growing sideways like they have completely given up on the original plan. And once human diets became even softer, the mismatch appears to have accelerated. Agriculture started the transition. Industrial food processing pushed it further, producing meals that required almost no chewing. By the time modern orthodontics emerged, crowded teeth were common enough to support an entire profession devoted to pulling them into position with wires. The hardware is modern. The teeth are ancient. Now this is where we need to rescue prehistoric humans from becoming dental influencers. Not all have perfect Hollywood smiles. Some had crooked teeth. Genetics, injuries, and abnormal eruptions still mattered. They also had dental problems that braces would not solve. Their teeth could be worn almost flat from years of chewing tough food contaminated with tiny particles of stone and grit. They developed abscesses. They lost teeth. They suffered gum disease. And cavities existed long before agriculture. At Taferalt Cave in Morocco, researchers examined hunter-gatherers who lived around 15,000 years ago. More than half of the surviving adult teeth were affected by cavities, probably because they heavily consumed starchy wild plants such as acorns and other nuts. So yes, you could have straight teeth in the Stone Age and still spend the night beside a fire with an abscess throbbing inside your skull and absolutely no emergency dentist available. The important difference is that decay and alignment are not the same problem. Prehistoric teeth were often damaged. They were simply less likely to be trapped inside an undersized dental arch. There is another detail visible in ancient mouths. Where? Ancient teeth were used hard. Abrasive food wore down their surfaces and even their sides, gradually reducing their width and creating additional room. The jaw provided more space, and the teeth themselves slowly occupied less of it. No orthodontic appointment required, just several decades of chewing dirt with dinner. This helps explain the wisdom tooth problem too. Third molars are not pointless mistakes invented to finance oral surgeons. In a large, heavily used jaw, they can erupt normally as the teeth ahead of them wear down or are lost. In a smaller modern jaw, the same molars may become impacted, infected, or remain buried in bone. The tooth is not necessarily the problem. The available real estate is. So can we fix all of this by giving children extremely hard food and making them chew like ancient hunters? Not that simply. Jaw development is influenced by genetics, airway health, and childhood habits. Tougher food may contribute to normal development, but it will not magically straighten teeth that are already crowded. Please do not throw away your retainer and begin attacking raw tree roots because a YouTube video mentioned archaeology. Your orthodontist will be confused, your family will be concerned, and the tree did nothing to deserve this. But the larger lesson remains. Human bodies develop inside environments. Change the environment quickly enough, and ancient biology can become mismatched with modern life. We became better at processing food than our mouths were prepared for. Slowly, the work disappeared from our mouths. So the next time you see an ancient skull in a museum, look at the teeth. They may be worn, cracked, or missing. That person may have experienced dental pain beyond anything most of us will ever know. But very often, the teeth that remain fit inside the jaw that grew around them. Not because ancient humans had superior genes, not because they knew anything about orthodontics, and not because cavemen were walking around with naturally perfect celebrity smiles. They had room. Their food made them build it. So why did cavemen almost never need braces? Because they spent their entire childhood doing something modern food has been engineered to remove. They chewed.